Hi, so I filmed this footage a few months ago and I didn't know what I was going to do with this. I was like, am I going to do a come thrift with me? Am I going to do a trends in 10? And I just was sitting on it. I didn't know what to do. And I'm honestly glad I did because I know exactly what video we're doing. If you've read the title of this video, you'll see we are talking about community care. And you might be like, what does this thrift store have to do with community care? This thrift store is Full Circle Thrift. It's one of my favorites ever. It is in Altadena, California. And if you know anything about the LA fires, if you've been following, you know that Altadena is the community that had a devastating loss from the fires. The whole community basically was gone because of these fires. And this thrift store managed to survive. They are honestly dealing with a lot of smoke damage and they're closed until further notice because they found out that their merchandise was smoke damaged and they have to clean it all up before they can reopen. So it's amazing that their building is still standing, but due to the smoke exposure and just safety concerns, they're working on removing and disposing all of the merchandise. So that is what this thrift store is dealing with. But I just want to talk about the importance of community care because this thrift store serviced the community of Altadena. And if you know anything about Altadena, I had no idea. I visited Altadena so many times since living in LA. I've been here for 7 years. I go to this thrift store all the time. I did not know Altadena was a historic Black community. And after the fires, a lot of the Black residents shared their stories and just shared the history of the city. And it is such an amazing city. Oh my gosh. So I'll put some links in the description down below if you want to learn about the history of Altadena. It was one of the first communities that Black people were allowed to move into after the Civil Rights Movement and after LA was known for redlining and all these things. That was a community where they were allowed to live. So there were so many amazing Black people living in Altadena, families, generations of families who built homes and businesses, and it is just a thriving historic community. It was, and now it's finding the way to get back to that. Now let's talk about community care. With everything going on right now, you hear a lot about self-care, especially around Valentine's Day. I'm filming this around Valentine's Day, but I don't think it's going up yet. Valentine's Day, they say self-care, self-love, blah, 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 blah. And that stuff is important, right? It's important to care for yourself before you can care for others. But what about caring for others? I think community care is so important. Community care matters just as much as self-care. And I'm going to even argue maybe even more than self-care. A thriving community, a community where people look out for each other, is essential for a healthy society. And I think the LA fires have shown us that self-care can only get you so far. After the community has band together, shown up in ways to donate their time, to volunteer their time, to donate resources, to listen to people's stories, to share people's stories, to be support for one another, for letting people live with them. If you lost your house, I know people who are letting people live with them until they find a permanent housing situation while they're displaced. And like just the way the LA community has shown up to raise funds for people who lost their homes from these fires and to just really extend an open hand. What do they say? What's the saying? Extend a welcoming hand, extend a hand, we'll say. So I'm like, seeing a community come together in this way has been so inspiring and showing that the community matters first, like the community coming together. So to show the community coming together before any outside resources even had the chance to come in and help, it just shows the power of community. So my friend Taylor, she is an amazing writer. She wrote a blog post on thriftsandtangles.com on my blog where she talks about just the importance of community care. So I really encourage you guys to go read that. But back to this video, I think that community care is something that gets neglected, gets forgotten. We're all in this independent mindset in our society, but community is key. Like the Black Panther Party literally work together to make it so people can have access to ambulances, so people can have access to free lunches and free foods. They had a breakfast program to feed the community. So when the government doesn't come together and save us or help us, and especially with the current administration, when we can't rely on government to show up for our needs, the community is what can come together and really create programs or just show up in ways to support one another in ways that the government could never do. So I just think it's important to show up for your community. How do you do this? I know it's overwhelming, but there are so many amazing community programs. So if you're trying to figure out how to get involved in your community, figure out what you're really good at or what you're really interested in, whether it's animals or gardening or fashion. There's probably a community program that is already out there for you. And you can just look at ways you can volunteer, ways you can donate, ways that you can, I don't know, show up in attendance to these events and really connect with your local community. That's something that I feel like can be very scary, and it doesn't have to be. Like, once you're involved in your community and get to know people in your community, these events are usually very welcoming and have a place where your skills can shine. So you don't always have to create something new, but if something is lacking in your community, if you find that there is not a community event, you can have an event yourself. You can do community clothing swaps. You can support your community by shopping local even. And that's the importance, like this thrift store. This was a local thrift store. This was supporting a local organization. So Full Circle Thrift specifically is a nonprofit community thrift store dedicated to peace and social justice projects. So by supporting local businesses, especially thrift stores, if they're nonprofits, that money is going back into the community. Some other ways you can show up for the community is providing ride services to the elderly or to anyone who's disabled or anyone who needs help, shopping in bulk and dispersing goods amongst the community. A lot of people right now are like anti-Target, pro Costco. A lot of those people are shopping in bulk and getting Costco memberships and like helping support their local community by shopping at Costco. So there's just little things you can do to really help the most vulnerable people in your community and just show up in a way that is helpful and kind. So community care requires a lot of organization and a lot of people showing up and coming together. Some ways people who are really into thrifting show up in community is through buy nothing groups. On Facebook, they have buy nothing groups where you don't have to even buy anything. You just reach out to the community and say, hey, I have this plant I don't want anymore. Does anyone want it? And just getting rid of that idea of like capitalism and you have to always sell something. Community care is offering what you can, whether that's resources, whether that's time, whether that's love, like whatever you have, offering what you can to your community, telling people that you love them is a way you can show up for your community, showing them you love them, because love is a verb, right? You have to show it, not just say it. Collaboration and working together with people who have a similar goal to you is community care. You know, your family, your friends, so those are some ways that I feel like make sense to show up for your community, but there's so many different ways. So you can do food drives, coat drives, back to school drives. There's so many different ways you can show up for your community, and I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts on that. Please let me know if you have any ways you like to show up for your community. Please share them in the comments below, and this can just be like a thread where we can just talk about ways our community needs support or has shown support, or just ways you have thought outside the box to show up for your community. And again, you don't always have to think outside the box. There's tried and true methods to showing up for your community, and you can look at past examples, like even like poetry slams and going to the library and using those kind of resources or attending those kind of events or using those kind of infrastructures. It's a really good way to share thoughts, share ideas, share resources, and all of those things. So make sure you check out the blog post written by Taylor. She's a little more, I don't know, she has a graduate degree and she is like a research queen, so I'm sure what she shares in that blog post is going to kind of trump what I said. But again, it's a community. I shared my thoughts and she shares hers, and you guys will share yours. So it's a whole community, I don't even know, incentive, a whole community project. I don't know what to say, but I hope you enjoyed this video, and I thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.